welcome to Birmingham.
More trees than Paris, more canals than Venice.
But for the next 10 days, more cars than Motor City. Let's do it. Tonight on Top Gear, the cream of this year's motor show at the NEC. Plus road tests of the best, like Renault's outrageous V6 Clio and Volvo's sexy but still sensible S60. Now, every manufacturer is claiming to be showing something vitally important at this year's show, but in Ford's case, it's true. We showed you last week how the new Mondeo has gone straight to the top of the class and raised the stakes for family cars. But the opposition's fight back starts now. Leading the charge is Renault's new Laguna, the Laguna 2. Well, that's easy enough to remember anyway. It's available in two different body styles. This Sport Tourer, that's estate to you and I, and this 5-door hatchback. There will be 6 different engines and 5 amusingly named trim levels. This one is, I believe, the Dynamique. Now, Ford reckons the Mondeo is the safest car in its class, but Renault thinks the Laguna 2 is even better. They can't agree on which is the higher quality inside either, although the Renault is certainly more flamboyant. Never mind, we're the real winners in this bitter battle, and it really is quite remarkably spacious in here.
In fact, almost as spacious as Citroen's Xantia replacement, the C5. On sale from the spring of next year, it features all sorts of high-tech gizmos, like computer-controlled suspension and voice-activated satellite navigation. Citroen say this C5 is so comfortable it can not only challenge cars in its own class, but the one above as well. And it certainly looks a bit different.
Which is exactly the philosophy used for Volkswagen's revised Passat. It is different, but only a bit. Same solidity, same refinement, but look, brand new. Realise? Oh yes, they've altered the grille too. The Passat's changes may be slight, but don't think VW's designers have been putting their feet up, because they haven't. They've come up with this, the Lupo GTI. Underneath the funky, chunky looks, you get twin airbags, power steering, ABS and an immobiliser, all as standard. But the best bit is it'll nudge 130 miles an hour and do 40 to the gallon. Frugal fun indeed.
Unbelievably, the Lotus Elise has been with us for 5 years, and in that time, more than 10,000 of the cute little sports cars have rolled off the production line. Its success has spawned 8 different versions, but now Lotus have given it a completely new look. It's lost some of its boyish charm, but it's grown sleeker and more sophisticated. Every single panel is new, but underneath it's only got 2 horsepower more, so it's not much quicker. But Lotus claim big improvements with its high-speed stability. It's also supposed to be quieter and have a much more user-friendly hood, while the price has gone up £300 to £22,995, which just happens to be exactly the same as the Vauxhall VX220. Deliveries start in a month's time. But if you can wait a little longer, a certain young lady keeps telling us size matters.
2 litres into 1 Clio.
But should we be happy with just 2 litres and 172 horsepower? Especially when you can have a 3-litre engine and 230 horsepower. This is, to give it its full name, the Clio Renault Sport V6 24-valve. Big name, big car. Bigger front bumpers, bigger air intakes, bigger wings, bigger 17-inch wheels, but most importantly, that bigger engine, which is found here, slap bang in the middle of the car. Why? Well, the best way to optimise a car's handling is to put a hefty lump like an engine between the axles. OK, so you lose a couple of seats, but who cares when it's all in the name of having even more fun. As long as it is more fun, let's hope Renault haven't gone and gilded the lily. Well, if it goes like it sounds, we're not going to be disappointed. That V6 sitting right behind me makes all the right noises. It doesn't sing like a Ferrari, mind you, nor does it rattle like a Lotus Exige. Instead, it provides a great sense of purpose, throaty racing roar. Hardly surprising when you realise that the Clio V6 has existed in track form for 2 years now, to spectacular effect. But that doesn't mean Renault leave you with a trendy, stripped-bare minimalist interior. This is more of a Grand Tourer than a racy sports car. You've got the same leather and Alcantara trim as on the 172 and the same sensuous steering wheel covering. Plus, you get a 6 CD changer and air conditioning as standard. The Clio V6 is the only mid-engine hatchback available today, but it's not the first time Renault have concocted such a creation. Who can forget the Renault 5-based turbo from the mid-80s? So does the Clio live up to such an iconic forefather? The steering is really positive, helped of course by the fact that the Clio is now rear-wheel drive. The traction is also very good, with the engine sitting right on top of those rear wheels. The gear change has rather a long movement to it, but it's still got a very nice positive engagement, although finding reverse isn't quite so easy with its cable-operated linkage. As an overall driving experience, there's no doubt this Clio excites, but it also slightly disappoints. We've already agreed that size matters, but we also know that getting bigger means getting heavier. And whilst this Clio has gained about 60 horsepower, it's also gained around 300 kilos in weight. So it's not quite the pocket rocket that many people had hoped for, but it's still a whole lot of fun. The UK will receive 400 right-hand drive versions per year, and with a price tag of £25,995, the first 500 have already got names against them. Those people could have bought an Audi TT for similar money, but it's nowhere near as involving as the Clio, whilst the BMW 323 Coupe doesn't have the same sort of hardcore street cred. This Clio may look mad, but it actually makes very good sense.
Time to bring things back down to earth for a while. Honda are also trying to prove that bigger is better with the new Civic, except that it's actually shorter than the old model, and yet it's got far more room inside. It's got a completely flat floor and a dash-mounted gear change and an absolutely spectacular amount of legroom, particularly here in the back. It's virtually halfway to being an MPV already, but there will actually be a full 7-seater version as well. But if you think it looks a little tame, don't worry. There's going to be a 200 bhp 3-door Type R version soon. I think I'll stick my name down for one of those.
Daewoo, meanwhile, are giving us a revised Matiz. They've titivated its looks and tell us the styling is apparently based on, and I quote, some of the greatest sports cars ever built. Improvements include a classier interior and an increase in safety levels, but don't rush out for one just yet. We reckon you should hold on for the new, bigger 1-litre engine arriving next year, providing Daewoo still exists.
The price for the most utterly sensible car here has to go to this, the Skoda Fabia Combi. Buying a Skoda these days is like buying a cheap VW, and in the shape of this cute little estate, it's a very promising proposition indeed. It's supposed to handle as well as the hatchback, but it's got a boot twice the size. And to spice things up a bit, you can order it with the same 2-litre engine found in the Golf GTI. And proving sensible can still be sexy, the new Alfa Romeo 147. Available with either 1.6 or 2-litre engines, there's also a 1.9-litre diesel on the way next year. You won't have to settle for just manual gear change either. The optional semi-automatic Celi-Speed system will come with an F1-style steering wheel paddle shift. Prices will be announced soon, and expect them to be keen.
Still to come on Top Gear, exclusive shots of the new Impreza. Ford just gets bigger and bigger. But first, a little bit of BMW.
Despite all the recent problems at the petrol pumps, there's a very distinct shout from the stands this year. Fuel crisis? What fuel crisis? There weren't many good reasons for not buying a BMW M5, but now there is at least one, the BMW M3. £13,500 cheaper than its big brother. Its 343 horsepower straight six fires it to 62 in just 5.2 seconds, a tenth of a second quicker than the M5. Indeed, it's the fastest accelerating BMW saloon ever. But it's not just about the shattering performance. This fantastically finished interior means that it can be experienced in five-star luxury.
It'll take something special to beat the boys from Bavaria, and that might just come from Blackpool. TVR is showing 3 new cars at the show. There's a revised Griffith, commemorating the last 100 to be made, and then there's this, the Tuscan R, which will be made to your own specification. The 4.2-litre straight six gives around 400 brake horsepower, and it'll top 200 mph. Not quite necessary for a trip down the shops. Which is where the new Timora comes in. It's based on the Tuscan, but it's been designed as a less extreme TVR, with toned-down styling and friendlier handling. But don't worry, because there is still plenty of power on tap from the 3.6-litre straight six. And just take a look at the interior.
A very different example of hand-built British craftsmanship is on the Rolls-Royce and Bentley stand. This year, they've really overdosed on the opulence with this, the Personal Commission Continental T. Now, it's designed primarily to be a showcase for the company's engineering talents, but someone has gone stark raving bonkers with the options list. It gets sports air vents, big wheel arches, quilted leather, a turned aluminium dashboard, and a lovely big red starter button. So much for British racing green, though.
A topless Italian is always going to turn heads. And Ferrari have given us this, the sensuous 550 Barchetta Pininfarina, to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the famous styling house. Priced at £172,530, only 448 will be made. And as Ferrari offer them to their best customers first, they've all been sold, with just 45 coming to the UK.
Tucked away in a corner of Hall 2, something's happening that's bound to excite every enthusiast around. The launch of the Subaru Impreza. Now, believe it or not, I'm the first very lucky person outside Subaru to get my hands on the new WRX Impreza Turbo. But because of an embargo on its driving impressions, I'm not allowed to tell you that this thing tackles corners like... And nor can I share with you the absolute...
No, you can't say that, no.
Come Sunday, though, when the embargo's lifted, you'll be able to get the full lowdown on the new Subaru Impreza when you tune into our special BBC One Motor Show programme.
More than 60 manufacturers are spread throughout 6 halls here at the show, but all of Hall 4 has been taken over by one mighty conglomerate, Ford. Every manufacturer in here, Volvo, Mazda, Aston Martin, Jaguar and Land Rover, all report to Uncle Henry. It means Ford have a foot in most camps, from super minis to supercars, which gives them a great platform for global domination.
As Ford now owns Land Rover, it must be very proud of the Freelander. The recent revisions and addition of the V6 will no doubt ensure it stays rooted to the #1 spot in the SUV sales charts. However, you'll have to watch out for the all-new Ford Maverick. It arrives next spring with either a 2-litre 4-cylinder or this, the 3-litre V6, and it's planning on making much more impact this time round. And if that wasn't complicated enough, there's also the Mazda Tribute, which behind the badge is exactly the same car as the Maverick. The right-hand drive versions are built alongside the Ford in Japan with identical engines and are set to arrive at the same time. Courtesy of Mazda and Land Rover, Ford have got all the SUV bases covered, but as they fight for sales, it can't remain happy families for long.
But there was one gaping hole in the Ford Empire's product range. They had nothing truly competitive in the small executive market. They do now. 10 years ago, I saw a movie in my local flea pit called Crazy People, in which the impish Dudley Moore played an advertising executive who came up with the slogan, Volvos. They're boxy, but they're good. A decade later, and the high street ABC has morphed into a massive 30-screen multiplex. And as for Volvos, well, they're almost unrecognisable. The S60 is the latest stage in Volvo's cunning reinvention as a premium brand. Traditional virtues of safety and dependability are combined with style. But the S60 is pitching into a junior executive market dominated by Audi, Mercedes and BMW. Can it gate-crash this exclusive party? Well, it's certainly very sharply dressed. Phase 3 in establishing Volvo's sexy new design language after the big S80 Saloon and the V70 Estate, the S60 is smaller, neater, and apparently inspired by the Jaguar E-Type. A wee bit optimistic, that, I think. But nevertheless, what we have here is probably the best proportioned Volvo ever. Okay, so it's not Alfa Romeo pretty, but as a piece of design, it's right up there. The grille is smart and upmarket and sits neatly at the end of this pronounced V in the bonnet, which leads in turn into this broad shoulder line that emphasises the S60's sporting credentials. It all finishes up with a rear window that sweeps so aggressively into the boot lid that you can see why Volvo thinks it can get away with describing it as a four-door coupe. It's a very clean, confident-looking machine. The S60 range starts at just under £20,000 for the 2-litre model, through to just under £24,000 for the hell-raising 250 bhp T5. The best seller, though, is likely to be this 2.4T version. But one thing they all have in common is a fabulous interior. This is the most important seat in the house. Like all Volvos, the S60 is a chiropractor's dream. The driving position is fabulous, the seats are magnificent, and naturally, all the very latest safety equipment is standard, from intelligent airbags to inflatable side curtains to seatbelt pre-tensioners. The dash layout is so clear and logical, it's almost impossible to fault. At last, a car manufacturer who realises that big rotary knobs are much easier to use than fiddly little switches. And despite their dubious musical legacy, the Swedes clearly have a thing for top-quality stereos. The Dolby Pro Logic system fitted to this car is frankly astonishing. No, that doesn't mean we have to listen to ABBA. Right, so it looks lovely, it's great value, and the interior's so comfortable I'm going to sell my flat and move in. So the S60's a winner then? Not quite. In this class, you need to be a fully paid-up driver's car, and this one might be overdrawn. It's by no means bad. It's just not quite as good as our old friend. Yes, the BMW 3 Series. It feels, I don't know, a bit lardy through the corners. It's all very neutral and safe and predictable, of course. It just doesn't ride or handle as fluently as its keenest rivals. But the S60's biggest problem is its steering, which simply lacks the sort of feedback you expect in a car like this. Wonderfully composed on the motorway, Volvo's new junior executive makes promises it can't quite keep if it's genuine entertainment you're after. But you know what? I don't really care. Finally, I think I've found a car where the overall package is so impressive, the lack of driver involvement doesn't seem to matter as much. Maybe, as Volvos get younger and more dynamic, I'm getting older. And maybe the S60 and I are meeting somewhere in the middle.
Stay with us for Peugeot's ever so chic 206 Cabrio. The first shots of Audi's all-new A4. But before that, there's more to come from Uncle Henry.
There are over 1,000 cars here at the show, but 3 very important ones aren't. Here on the Jaguar stand, they aren't showing anybody anything new. The eagerly anticipated baby Jag still isn't quite ready yet. But you can see the first exclusive television pictures of it on Top Gear in 2 weeks' time. And all year, Aston Martin have been building up to the launch of their new car. But their boss, Dr. Ulrich Betz, has decided it's not quite perfected enough yet either, so it's not here. But we've seen it, and it looks all right to us. Welcome to the Aston Martin Vanquish. It brings all those Aston qualities we've grown to love bang into the 21st century. The lightweight aluminium panels will still be handcrafted, but they'll now be attached to a high-tech carbon composite and extruded aluminium chassis. The V12 is from the DB7 Vantage, but power has been increased to 450 bhp. It promises a 0 to 60 time of 4.6 seconds with a top speed of 190 miles an hour, while a paddle shift gear change comes as standard. Prices will be near the £200,000 mark, but orders are already pouring in, particularly from the Americans.
The new Audi R4.
And completing our trinity of important cars that didn't make the show, here's a first TV look at Audi's new A4. The car has a thankless task. It must compete with the all-conquering BMW 3 Series and the imperious Mercedes C-Class. The family resemblance remains strong, but Audi promise it's a lot more spacious with superior ride and handling to the outgoing model. We'll have a full test soon.
What a shame they didn't bring them to the motor show.
Now, there's one other major absentee, and that is MG Rover, Britain's biggest volume car manufacturer. And I have here Kevin Howe, who is Chief Executive of MG Rover. Kevin, why have you decided not to go to the Birmingham Motor Show?
I think most people regard attendance at motor shows as being sort of traditional, and tradition isn't something that sits very well with this new company of ours. Basically, we have a very strong product plan, which is where we will be rolling out, as you know, the estate next year, and it will be accompanied by a number of MG saloons, some of which will be very exciting, outrageous performance, which is nice to talk about for a change.
But will adding an MG badge to the existing Rover range give them the credibility they crave? After all, it didn't work too well with the Maestro and the Montego.
If you were going to see MG badges just stuck onto the grills of Rover cars, then you wouldn't see me sitting here, because that's not a particularly interesting thing to do. There will be some MG saloons that will be derived from the Rovers, but there will be as many differences both in the appearance, ride, handling and performance as I can possibly make it and as everybody else can make. You know, we have to get something done quickly there, but you can be assured you won't be able to just prize the badge off and see the word Rover underneath it.
We have a number of engines in the range that will take the performance of this car and the other cars to much higher levels than we've seen before. I can't tell you too much about the actual power figures yet. That's too early for us to let you know what those are, but suffice it to say that they will be quick cars, and they'll probably be the quickest in their classes.
MG is going to be the chance for people to get into a kind of sporting vehicle at almost any level, you know, any level of income or aspiration. There should be an MG available for them to do just that.
Enough of the product. What about the politics and the speculation in the press that Rover's backers aren't in it for the long haul?
Let's just talk about the issue of John Towers and the other consortium members. I mean, I think what's most important is this seems to have been labelled as an opportunity for the guys that actually bought the company to make a killing. I mean, I must stress that the actual shares of the company will be held by a number of people, only 4 of which will be the original consortium members. There'll be 35% of the company that goes to the employees, and indeed 25% of the dealers. So if a killing, for example, were to be in discussion, then it would be shared by everybody inside the company. But I can stress that we've taken this company on to turn it into a successful company. We have nothing in our business plan at all which considers selling it on. Yeah? Nothing at all.
So you're in it for the long haul then?
We are planning to be in it for the long haul.
Absent from Rover's future is the Mini, because of course it's owned by BMW, though there's no Beamer badge on it, and that's because this Mini is being marketed very much as an individual brand. Costing between 10 and 15 grand, it'll be on sale next July, and not just from BMW dealerships, but from special Mini high street shops too. It looks like being a great car, but an even better fashion accessory, particularly as there are plans for a posy cabriolet version. But soft-top drop-tops are getting a bit old hat these days.
It's normally up to the Italians to go about styling convertibles, but this time Peugeot have tapped their very own French flair to come up with a 206 Coupe Cabriolet, a car which has added some much-needed sophistication to the affordable convertibles market. With the roof up, it's got a bit of a large rear end anyway. I've overlooked that in the past, and I think the shape is a bit of a grower. And it's got the alloys and spoilers to give it a bit of Parisian boulevard arrogance. It sports one of those folding roof systems that normally come with a Mercedes badge and a 30 grand price tag. Whilst others struggle, just push a button and watch it all disappear. No damn canvas, no fiddly bits and no sun-bleached plastic screen. Look at that, in real time, just 20 seconds, and it looks a lot more clean cut. It becomes a lot better proportion with the roof down, and should it suddenly start to rain, you can even operate it at speeds under 10 miles an hour. It's got no boot with the roof down, and the back seats are tiny, but who cares? It's being introduced with a 2-litre engine nicked out of the GTI. A 1.6 will follow next year, as will automatic transmission. Now, I've actually been keeping a lid on the fact that I think convertibles are the most tasteless form of motoring possible. Whoa, everyone look at me, I've got no roof. And convertibles based on hatchbacks are the lowest in the food chain. Apart from anything, they're not made for British weather. And if you do get the roof down, they're still noisy, smelly, ugly, and have wobbly handling. But this car gets round these things, and for that, you've got to give it credit. No roof, pas de problème. It's lost none of that Gallic stoic composure. It feels excellent around the bends, and it shudders a bit over the tarmac. But what do you expect? You've chopped the roof off. At the end of the day, it's a complete buzz to drive. It's also refreshingly quiet on the move. As you're travelling along, you can debate left-wing literature with your lover without raising your voice. And there's no compromise on headroom either. But probably the most significant feature is the heated glass rear screen, which will prove invaluable on those cold winter mornings. The interior comes with Sport Pack as standard, which means you'll get these leather trimmings on the steering wheel and gear stick, CD player, air conditioning, front airbags and side airbags. And the whole car will set you back £15,995. That is absolutely spanking value. Are you watching, Volkswagen? The 206 Coupe Cabriolet is a stunning addition to the low-life riffraff that are affordable convertibles. It's well priced, keeps its looks, and most importantly, has sophistication. In fact, it's a breath of fresh air, which will come in handy when you're stuck in traffic, choking on diesel fumes, covered in pigeon droppings. Nice.
So, plenty of new metal and new models. But what's been our real star of the show? Well, it simply has to be this breathtaking Porsche Carrera GT concept car, which, if it attracts as much attention as we think it's going to, goes on sale in 2003 with a price tag of £250,000.
Powered by a mid-mounted 5.5-litre V10, originally destined for a Le Mans racer, 0 to 60 should only take about 4 seconds. And because of a lightweight carbon fibre monocoque, its 558 bhp should translate into a top speed in excess of 200 miles per hour.
All that is very impressive, but do you want to know what the best thing is? Looking forward to what Ferrari and Lamborghini will build to beat it.
In next week's Top Gear, Tiff races a £2.5 million Aston Martin round Goodwood. And I load up the Alpha 156 Sport Wagon. Is it a real estate car or just pretending?
Catch more from the Motor Show this Sunday afternoon at 4:05 on BBC One.